Hello guys and gals, and welcome back to another episode of Creepypastas. Yes, this time we take a look at the infamous SMILE.jpg or Smile Dog creepypasta, one of the most infamous creepypastas of all time, so take a seat, relax, and enjoy Smile Dog. Smile Dog's story consists of a classic horror setup. An amateur writer visits the house of a lady who supposedly has a story for which he can borrow from. Rather than speak, however, the lady has locked herself up in her room, crying and ranting about nightmares and visions, and other various problems. All of these center around a floppy disk she had been given that contained the image smile.jpg, which is smile.dog. Other cases of this have cropped up. Viewing this image incites insanity, and no copy of the exact image exists on the web, though likenesses of it do. The true image of smile.jpg is recognized due to the effect it has on the viewer, is that they wind up dead. Attaching the file, that is spreading the word, is the only way to save oneself from the smile.dog that appears in one's dreams demanding to spread the word. Some say that the original legend began with an image of the devil. I first met in person with Mary E. in the summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terrence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman, but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments and, if all well went according to plan, some pieces of fiction. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend when I was in Chicago on unrelated business, but at the last moment Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour I sat with Terrence as we camped outside the bedroom door. I listened and took notes while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife. The things Mary said made little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I could not see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying. And more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe on her dreams, her nightmares. Terrence apologized profusely when we ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. Recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time I could perhaps find another similar case if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was a SysOp for a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992, when she first encountered smile.jpg and her life had changed forever. She and Terrence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of an estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was posted as a hyperlink on the BBS, though she's the only one who has spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous or are perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, smile.jpg was first brought to my attention by a burgeoning interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as smile.dog. That being smile.jpg is reputed to display. What caught my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of the cyber legend and the proclivity towards such things, was a sheer lack of information, usually to the point that people don't believe it even exists other than a rumor or a hoax. It's unique because, though the entire phenomenon centers on a particular picture file, that file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly many photo-manipulated simulacra litter the web, showing up the most frequency on sites such as the image board 4chan, particularly the X-focused paranormal subboard. It is suspected these are fakes because they don't have the effect the true smile.jpg is believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. This purported reaction to the viewer is one of the many reasons the phantom-like smile.jpg is regarded with such disdain, since it's patiently absurd, though depending on whom you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge smile.jpg's existence might be just as much out of fear as it is out of disbelief. And neither smile.jpg or smile.dog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous shock sites as hello.jpg or 2 Girls 1 Cup. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to smile.jpg is similarly deleted by any of the encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with smile.jpg are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of smile.jpg showing up in the early days of Usenet, and even one persistent tale that in 2002 a hacker flooded the forums of humor and satire website Something Awful with a deluge of smile.dog pictures, rendering almost half the forum's users at the time epileptic. It's also said that the mid to late 90s, the smile.jpg circulated on Usenet and as an attachment on a chain email with the subject line, "Smile, God loves you." Yet despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few people who admit to having experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who claim to have seen smile.jpg often weakly joke that they are far too busy to save a copy of their picture on their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo. A dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by the flash of the camera, sits in a dim room. The only background detail is visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog or dog creature. Some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen. The muzzle of the beast is reputedly split into a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, very human-looking teeth. This is of course not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims, who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the time they are in reality having these epileptic fits. These fits are reported to have caused continue indeterminably, often while the victims are sleeping, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some cases it's more effective than others. Mary E., I assumed, was not on any effective medication. This is why, after my visit to her apartment in 2007, I sent out, feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of the supposed victim of smile.jpg who was more interested in talking about, his or her experiences. For a time, nothing had happened, and at length I forgot completely about my pursuits, since I had begun my freshman year of college and was quite busy. Mary, though, contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March 2008. Dear Mr. L., I'm incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I realize that I could have handled the situation more decorously. However, I hope you will forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years I've been haunted by smile.jpg. Smile.dog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. There is an ineffable quality about my dreams, my nightmares, that makes them completely unlike any dreams that I've ever had. I don't move, I don't speak, I simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is a scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, I see smile.dog, it talks to me. It's not a dog, of course, though I'm not quite sure what it really is. It tells me it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do is say, spread the word. That's how it phrases its demands. And I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else. And I could. The week after my incident, I received in the mail a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy diskette. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I could show it to a stranger, a coworker, I could even show it to Terrence, as much as the idea disgusted me. And what would happen then? Well, if Smile.dog kept its word, I could sleep. Yet if it lied, what would I do? And who was to say something worse would not come for me if I did as the creature asked? So I did nothing for 15 years, though I kept the diskette hidden amongst my things. Every night for 15 years, Smile.dog has come to me in my sleep and demanded that I spread the word. For 15 years I have stood strong. Though there have been hard times, many of my fellow victims on the BBS board, where I first encountered Smile.jpg, stopped posting. I heard some of them committed suicide, others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the internet. They are the ones I worry about the most. I sincerely hope you forgive me, Mr. L, but last summer, when you contacted me and my husband about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I did not care if Smile.dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger, someone I had no connection with, and I thought I would not feel sorrow when you took the diskette as part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing. I was plotting to ruin your life. I couldn't stand the thought, and in fact I still cannot. I'm ashamed, Mr. L, and I hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may in time encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved. Someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile.dog's orders. Stop while you are still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terrence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself. While cleaning up the various things she had left behind, closing email accounts and the like, he happened upon the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He found the diskette, he revealed, and burned it until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. That part that most disturbed him, however, was how the diskette had hissed as it melted, like some sort of animal, he said. I will admit that I was a little uncertain about how to respond to this. At first I thought perhaps it was a joke, with the couple belatedly playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of me. A quick check of several of the Chicago newspapers' online obituaries, however, proved that Mary E. was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of suicide in the article. I decided that, for a time at least, I would not further pursue the subject of SMILE.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up at the end of May. But the world has odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I'd returned from my disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email. Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list of your profile. Said you are interested in Smile Dog. I have saw it. And it is not as bad as everyone says. I've sent it to you here. Just spreading the word. The final line chilled me to a bone. According to my email client, there was one file attachment called naturally smile.jpg. I considered downloading it for some time. It was most likely a fake, I imagined. And even if it weren't, I was never wholly convinced of Smile.jpg's particular powers. Mary E.'s account had shaken me, yes, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyways. After all, how could a simple image do what Smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that could break one's mind with the power of the eye? And if such things were patently absurd, then why would the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary turned out to be correct, if Smile.dog came to me in my dreams demanding I spread the words, what would I do? Would I live my life as Mary? Fighting against the urge to give it until I died? Or would I simply spread the word, eager to, be put to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Whom would I burden in turn? If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about Smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence, and anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, would be affected. Anyone assuming the Smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, would I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yes. Yes, I could. So, this was Smile.jpg, or Smile Dog, one of the most infamous creepypastas of all time. Now, what do I think about this? Well, it's pretty articulate, and the concept is cool. It's almost like Mario, if you will. A viral file that no one knows the true origin of, and it's scary anytime you look at it because it could either be the real thing or it could be one of the many fakes. You're basically playing on a gamble. Now, moving on, did I think it lived up to this hype that I built around it, I guess, before I read it? Yes and no. Well, for starters, it had a good pacing, and it was written professionally, and it had this campfire mood, which I love in creepypastas, but at the same time, it felt at just this picture. And yes, it's an obscure picture. I really don't think it would have this large of an effect. I mean, we see the picture allegedly at the end, and it really isn't scary when you look at it, to the point where we would be driven to this insane suicidal, position. At least that's what I personally believe. The whole tale with Mary, it's interesting, but it also begs the question, does this picture really drive you that insane and give you this fucked up, realistic, hyper-realistic nightmares, I guess? We'll throw that in as well. Now, once again, the picture isn't really confirmed, since no one still knows what it is. I mean, it is just the picture we've been given. Maybe the real one is of the actual devil. Maybe it's not even the picture that we're looking at. We don't know unless we were on that BBS on that one unfortunate day. But even then, I'm still wondering if it's, that nightmare-inducing, if it's that serious. I just wish we had more, but at the same time, I do like the mystery and obscurity, since it does give the eeriness, which I crave. But in the end, it is great. I felt, I did kind of overhype it, but, that's sort of what happens with these creepypastas as well. I mean, it's definitely not as overhyped as, I guess, Sonic.exe. It didn't put me off that much, but, it wasn't, I mean, it was nice, but my expectations were, I guess, a tad too high for this. What would you rate this, and what would you change to make it better? This has been another episode of Creepypastas, and if you like what you saw, then like, comment, and subscribe. For those wondering what game I'm playing, this is Dd0's Retribution. I'm playing it on the PlayStation 3. It's a pretty nice single-player only game, third-person action-adventure. As you can see, it's got some nice melee combat, some really awesome gritty graphics. It's got this nice, stealth mechanic where you play as a Dog Shadow, and you can even use them in combat and everything, and it's got some alright shooting there. But yeah, if you're ever wondering what game I'm playing, I'll mention it in the description. I will key it in the beginning, and sometimes I'll give it a nice mention here at the end. So, this is me, Mudahar, and I am out.